One of the most commonly asked questions of liveaboards is, what does it cost to live on a boat? We're Bill and Lisa, and we've got a plan to move from living on land to living on a boat. There's a lot to learn and a lot to do for us to get there. To make it happen, we've got a 32-foot tug. That's our classroom that we've named Three Ravens. So join us on this journey of a lifetime. Well, it's a beautiful day for a foliage hike here in Vermont.
Yes, so beautiful.
And the boat's safely put away, stored for the winter.
So sad.
It is sad, but oh my God, did we have a fun summer.
Oh my gosh. I feel actually guilty that I had so much fun. I had an extended summer because of COVID and people were isolated and we were having a blast on our boat. We were on perpetual vacation.
How lucky were we to be able to do our social isolation on a boat. But now we're going into the winter. The boat is stored away. Does that mean that we're done working on our goals towards living on a boat?
Absolutely not.
No, it doesn't. Not at all. We've got so much to do this winter. I've got to clear out my condo and I got to sell it.
I've got to start getting rid of years and years of accumulation of kid stuff. I got to make room in my closet and spaces for him to move in.
We got to make a hurricane plan.
Work on our budget some more.
And yeah, we've really got to work on our budget. And so what we want to do is provide you with some of the things that we've been thinking about making a budget for living on a boat. Join us. Now, I can't tell you how much it's going to cost you to live on a boat any more than I can tell you how much it's going to cost you to live in a house. You could spend $1.6 million on a luxury home, or you could spend $60,000 on a tiny house. The choice is up to you, and the same is true on a boat. How much you spend is how much you're able to or willing to spend. But we want to show you some of the variables that we've been looking at in trying to figure out our budget for living on a boat. For most people, owning a boat means enjoying a sunny Saturday afternoon out on the water. Other people live on a boat that's never really even intended to leave the dock. Some people will maintain their home and their car, but take off a year or so, do something like the Great Loop, or just cruise Chesapeake. There's no question that owning a house and a boat is extremely expensive. So some full-time liveaboards live exclusively on their boats. When it became time to sit down and figure out a budget and our finances, I thought it would be smart to consult with a professional. And we were referred to a wonderful guy with all sorts of resources and knowledge and experience. And we went off to meet with him. And he asked us, what are your plans? And we told him we want to live on a boat. And he looked at us with kind of a blank expression and said that if we could move to almost any town in the United States and he could tell us the average price of houses, taxes, everything we needed to know. But living on a boat, he said, you're on your own.
I've found it a little bit frustrating of trying to figure out what it does cost to live on a boat, right? Because every time I do research, they're living on a sailboat, or they live on a trawler, but they only cruise the Bahamas, or they stay at marinas all the time, or nobody seems to be doing, well, we haven't found them, people who are doing what we want to do, so it's a little trickier to understand all the costs but we're getting better and better ideas.
We very quickly realized that the variables that most people would consider when putting together a budget, mortgage, taxes, these automobiles, these sorts of things, really won't pertain to us while we're living on a boat. In fact, we had to really rethink the whole budget idea. Fixed costs are those things that can't be changed by your behavior. I pay the same amount for my mortgage and taxes, no matter how much time I spend in my condo. And fixed costs typically take between 60 to 80% of our budget. And discretionary funds can be changed by behavior. For example, I could have surf and turf every night, or I could eat a bologna sandwich. And discretionary funds usually run about 20 to 40% of our overall budget. But what happens if you turn everything on its head and fixed costs are reduced to 20 to 40%, while 80% of your budget can be put towards fun? That's right, I said fun. So we've attempted to outline some of the basic areas that should be considered in putting together a budget for living aboard. So it is with boats. You can buy a fancy new shiny boat, or you can buy a more modest, older boat and save an awful lot of money. Or you could go with a real fixer-upper. Quite frankly, I'm in a real quandary about this. Does it make more sense to pay cash for a boat and just buy what you can afford? Or does it make more sense to borrow some money? Personally, I'm pretty much allergic to taking on more fixed expenses. But does it make more sense to maybe borrow a little money and get more boat? At this point, I'm just not sure, and I'm going to be looking for some professional advice on this. Marina's kind of sticking my craw. We could spend $100 to $150 a night at a marina, and really, what do we get for that? Essentially an empty plot of water and maybe some power. So it's kind of like checking into a 4-star hotel, but bringing your own room. So I see marinas as sort of a necessary evil. They can be very helpful if you're loading on groceries and supplies, and of course they're a safe refuge in a storm. It can be much cheaper to rent a mooring, and free to just put out a hook. So we budgeted about $2,400 a year for marinas. We all have to eat, and if you continue eating pretty much like you are while you're living on land, probably going to cost you just about the same amount, especially if you buy from local shops and markets, and don't try to buy the imported foods that can cost 2 and sometimes 3 times as much down in the Bahamas. Another discretionary expense is dining out. And there's an obvious difference between dining at a 4-star restaurant and going to the local fish fry on a Friday night. So we're guessing we'll spend about $800 a month just on food. Even though it's typically a fairly small percentage of the overall budget, fuel and fuel consumption is one of the most talked about aspects of boats. Semi-displacement hulls will use as much as 20 to 30 times as much fuel as a full displacement hull that can sip along at 2 to 3 gallons per hour. We plan on purchasing a boat with a full displacement hull. So our best guess is we'll spend about $400 a month on fuel. Maintenance can really be divided into three separate areas. There's refitting when you first purchase the vessel. This could be anything that's needed to get it up to being seaworthy, or just to make it up to your own personal standards. For example, I really want to have state-of-the-art navigation, radar, and weather systems on board, and I will probably have to install those myself. The other area is unexpected expenses. This is similar to owning a house. You don't really budget for a tree falling on your house, and things do happen to boats. For both of these, I've created a separate account of some monies that I've put aside for exactly this reason. That's separate from the money I'll be using to purchase the boat. That way I'll have a little nest egg for these eventualities. What we're talking about in this category is just general monthly maintenance. Changing oil, changing filters, little things that might break, little things that need attention. So we've estimated about $500 a month. A lot of people look at buying boat insurance like they're buying a pair of Levi's. Call up 4 or 5 stores, ask them how much they charge for a pair of Levi's, and go with the cheapest one. But boat insurance is a much more complicated issue. It's so complicated, in fact, we're going to be making a whole video just on boat insurance. But suffice it to say, issues like where you're going, when you're going there, how much experience you have, how much additional training you have, what kind of a boat you're insuring, and what kind of insurance are you buying, all of these factors go into the cost of boat insurance. We are estimating that this is going to cost us somewhere around $400 a month. That's based on other people's experiences. I don't know what we're going to do about health care. Here in Vermont, we are fairly limited in the number of choices we have. And our current plan for Lisa and I, for a catastrophic plan with $15,000 of out-of-pocket costs, would still cost $1,500 a month. That's $18,000 a year for a catastrophic plan. Now down in the Bahamas, most people don't have any health insurance, and they don't need it because most medical procedures are very reasonable. I've seen people have cancer removed from their face for $150, or have LASIK on their eyes for $300. I really don't know what we're going to do here. I'm still 3 years away from being able to receive Medicaid, so we are probably going to be moving to another state, and probably looking around for some sort of catastrophic health insurance just for unforeseen, very expensive, critical events. So we're budgeting $500 a month, but that's just really throw a dart at a dartboard. I really don't know what we're going to do about this. Then there's everything else. Even on a boat, life can be expensive. Things like sunscreen or just personal hygiene, miscellaneous travel. We might want to rent a car sometime. Immigration fees into different countries. All of these things add up over time, and we've budgeted about $300 for that. That could vary back and forth depending on how much time we spend just on the boat and how much time we spend wandering around different islands. So I hope we've made it clear that this is just our best guess estimate. It's not really based on any hard facts. And certainly somebody could spend less than this, and most certainly people could spend an awful lot more. But we think in the end it's going to cost us somewhere around $40,000 a year to live on the boat. That's not including the cost of purchasing it. And as I pointed out, we may add as much as another $1,000 a month if we decide to borrow some money. So maybe you can use this as a general guide, but certainly don't look at this as hard numbers. Once we get on the boat and we actually have some hard numbers, we'll be glad to share them with you. Good luck to you in your journey. Thanks for joining us on our journey, as we've learned an awful lot and have a lot of fun. We're Bill and Lisa, and we're going to live on a boat.